everybody. Thought I'd do a little video here on just something that actually is my least favorite part about quadcopters, and that is fixing old quadcopters. Like, not fresh ones that something just goes wrong with, but like this was a quad that I flew a ton, I don't know, up until like a year or more ago, or maybe longer. You can tell by the flight controller it's been a while. But anyway, so I've already worked on this some today, but I don't know about you guys, but my least favorite thing to do is troubleshoot old quads that have gremlins. You know, they got things wrong with them. And it's even worse if you had set this thing up somewhere on a bench, just like, I'll work on it later. And then like me, a year and a half, I don't know, a long time goes by. And then on a Sunday afternoon, you're like, you know, instead of maybe robbing parts off of it, it's like, I'm just gonna bring this thing back to life. So, just what I've done today. It's still not ready to go. But I was just gonna show you some of the troubleshooting things I do when I have an old quad. I can't remember what's wrong with it, and I'm gonna start working on it. So what I don't do is plug a battery in right away, because I can't remember what was wrong. So what I did today, first I do the little, you know, the meter thing to check for continuity or whatever. I think that's what it is, between the positive and negative, to see if it beeps. I think it's continuity. Yeah, but anyway, and if it beeps, then I know I've got a dead short or something in it. And then actually, one of the first things I do is I visually, you know, I look at everything. I mean, I'm sure everybody does that. This little section here that now has heat shrink on it. I'll talk about that here in a little bit, but you want to inspect all your wires and you know, stress test everything. So you look at everything, you feel of everything, and you spin your motors and make sure they all seem like they spin. You look at the windings to see if any of the windings are like charred or anything. But one of the funniest things I think that really helps if you got an old quad and you're not sure what's wrong with it, it's just been laying around, is smell of it, you know. So smell each motor and smell the stack, especially where the 4-in-1 is or whatever, and just see what it smells like, because we all know the smell of burned electronics, and the good thing about that smell is it lingers forever. So yeah, look, listen, feel, and smell of everything, and then you plug it in. And so I plugged it in today, and I had my startup tones. You know, everybody knows that do-do-do. It did all that, which was promising, but the problem was it actually had one of these on it. This is another quad with a similar history, and this is an old TBS Unify HV, and I had no video on this quad, and this was the Unify was back here, and no lights, most importantly. So I didn't have video. I scanned through all the channels, and I realized the light wasn't even on the old Unify. So then I actually desoldered where I had it soldered to some VBAT pads, and I moved it to the main power leads, soldered it there for power, plugged it in again, still no lights. So then I'm like, well, it's either plug's bad. I checked where the wires go and all that. So I have another quad here that was a similar build. Robbed that Unify off, plugged it in, and lo and behold, it lit right up. So it was a bad VTX. It was old, and I guess went bad during a crash or whatever. So I also found the capacitor was broken, like one of the leads was. You know how those can do that as well. So anyway, so then I knew my problem. The fun thing about this quad is it's got Flight 1 on it, and specifically Falco X. So the interesting thing about that is to set it up, you need video, because, well, you can use the little emulator thing in the setup on the computer, but I hate it. So I figured, you know, number one thing to do is get some video, and I figured I'd move it from Crossfire to Ghost, because I've been running Ghost. So I've got one of these hybrid boards on here, and soldered everything up, and updated the firmware, and lo and behold, during the Falco X setup, it spins all the motors. And so I could tell when it started to spin the motors that my front left motor was doing this kind of thing. So intermittent spinning, and it was getting warm. I was like, oh crap. So that might have been why it got put on the shelf a long time ago. So then the question is it the motor or is it the speed controller? So I just found another motor. I didn't want to get a fresh motor because I've done that before, and you put a fresh motor on a troubled build and sometimes you can fry your fresh motor or damage it. So found a motor off one of these other builds and just put it on, and it did the same thing. So it looks like, even though this ESC doesn't smell bad here, it didn't look bad, but I'm thinking it's an ESC problem. So it's gonna need, now of course it's got camera works, it's got 4 good motors from what I can tell. This one's doing that weird thing, but this is the replaced motor, so most likely it needs a new 4-in-1. And I have a new 4-in-1, or that's the other thing, is I could rob the 4-in-1 off this build, which haven't even started troubleshooting yet, but it didn't sound right when I just did the, well, I did start some of the troubleshooting, but, and this is the one I robbed the motor off of, but, and then put it back. But anywho, so yeah, the joys of fixing old quads. But I mean, you learn a lot by troubleshooting like that. So I'll put a new 4-in-1 on when I get time. Wasted a little bit of my Sunday afternoon doing all this. I guess it's not a waste if I can get it going. So now it looks like flight controller's good from what I can tell. Every other component's good, but it needs a new 4-in-1, which is the one component that's the biggest pain to replace in my opinion. So I'll do that next. But I just thought I'd, I don't know, just record my thought process, troubleshooting old quads, and somebody's bored, maybe they'll listen to this and find it helpful. Also, if you're getting old like me, I found you can just use your phone to zoom in on speed controllers and flight controllers. Take pictures and zoom in and all that. So it's almost like, you know, I bought this digital microscope here the other day, but tell you what, my phone on a stand like this works pretty good. You can tell I built this quad forever ago. My soldering looks horrible. I've gotten so much better. This has got to be, I don't know, maybe this is 3 years ago. It's a long time ago, but you see the wires I did today, they look decent, but those old, the power leads and the old motor wires look horrific. But anyway, we'll improve as we do it more. So anyway, hope everybody's doing good. And if you get a chance, post any tips or troubleshooting things you guys do and send me a link or something. I'd like to see it. See ya.